Hey, what is up, FXers? Welcome to the video. Today, we're exploring Spark AR from Facebook and Instagram. It's exciting. It's new. Newish. They opened it up so anyone can submit their own face filters, and it's surprisingly easy and fun. I invite you to check it out with me right now. So let's get started. So this is what you're going to see when you open up a new project in Spark AR. It's just pretty basic. It looks like a 3D builder, if you're accustomed to Maya or Blender or 3ds Max or, any of those. It looks kind of like that. You have your outliner on the side here, your properties panel over here. This is your 3D viewer space. This is your transform, rotate, scaling. Here you have the device that you want to preview the effect on, and your assets will be down here. It's really easy actually, so just bear me real quick. I thought that for the first video, we would just do something really simple that we can accomplish in a relatively short amount of time. Feel free to follow with me if you want. If not, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm in California right now, and aside from everything being on fire, there is also another phenomenon going on with PG&E, where everyone is losing power. Thanks, PG&E. So I thought it might be kind of fun to just do a quick effect that we'll name PG&E, where your lights go out. I don't know, maybe that's really stupid, but hopefully not offending anyone. All right, so there we are. We named our project Thanks PGE. That's probably what we'll name the filter, unless maybe we're not allowed to name it that. I'm not sure. Facebook is pretty strict with what you can upload and they'll approve. But if you don't get approved, you still get the link to the effect and you can still send it to people for them to try it out. And it just won't be like an official effect. Anyways, how you get started here? Really easy. There's really three options. You can right click, add object down here, which gives you a nice description. Sorry that it got cropped off. Or you can add through this add menu. I usually just right click because that's fastest for me. We'll cover a few of the options for you real fast, even though we might not be using them. If you wanted to do a mask or something like that, you just select the face tracker here, and you see how it's parented under the camera. So you want to select the face tracker to parent the next thing, and you'll do a 3D mesh, which is parented now. And you'll see really quickly, as I mentioned in my blog post, which you may or may not have seen, you already have a checkerboarded face mask, which is totally awesome. And you have the option for materials and deformation down here. That's how you'll do the squishy faces through the deformation. I don't think we're gonna need those. So we're going to create a canvas. And a canvas is basically just a holder for the screen, right? So you see it here. It's just gonna insert everything that is grouped under it to this plane, which is basically just the viewfinder on your camera. I'm sorry, I suck at talking. So under there, we're gonna create a rectangle, and you see it's textured as the checkerboard already. Let's put it in a new layer just because sometimes layers messes me up a little bit. And you're just going to change those to full width so they take up the entire screen. Cool. Now we have a checkerboard. All right, we're done. Now, so what we're going to do is go to select your camera, and you'll see in the properties, you have texture extraction and segmentation. Now these are actually really cool features that you're gonna want to learn about. The texture extraction is basically the camera image. So you can extract that as a texture and project it over stuff. The segmentation, sorry if this isn't totally accurate. The segmentation is creating sort of almost like a layer, so you can separate or segment the alpha data. If you're familiar with alpha channels, it's basically just black and white. And anyways, I don't want to get caught up too much on confusing you guys, but the segmentation is definitely really, it's a widely used feature in a lot of effects that are a little bit more complicated than what we're building today. If we wanted to project onto our rectangle canvas here, we could select materials. It automatically creates material 0. You'll see it down here in the assets. Click it. Look at, you have all these properties. Default shader type is standard. If you select flat, then that is not affected by lighting, which I guess we'll get into shortly. So standard is affected by lighting, and then you have physically based, etc. You can choose an image texture. You can, mess with all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here that we're not gonna be able to go through in just this first tutorial. So if I select, the texture that we created from our camera, which is, it's just the output of our camera as a texture. We're now projecting that onto this rectangle, and all that is different is that this is receiving lighting data, and this light is not as bright as it would be. Is not as bright, essentially. We change this from standard to flat. Bam, the lighting is exactly the same because it's not affected by lighting in the scene. Just wanted to demonstrate that for you guys. So this is going to get exciting because I actually don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm just going with it. Now, we want to get into the node-based editor, which, bear with me, is a little confusing at first if you're not familiar with nodes. So we're going to create a patch. Now, object tap is an interaction which will happen when you tap the screen of the phone. Maybe we should do that. If you tap it, then we turn the light off, right? I've never done that before. I've never done an object tap interaction. So I'm not exactly sure how it's going to go, but let's give it a try. Now, actually, I do want to switch this back to standard because we are going to be using the lighting in the scene, because this entire effect is pretty much just playing with the lighting, right? So in our patch editor, going over nodes, basically, just think of it like it's basically just like an engineering chart. And by that, I just mean it's a funnel. You start from one thing, you go to the next, and it's like layers almost in Photoshop or something. You just keep building on. And the cool thing about them is you can, disable things and go back, and you don't have to go back in your history. It's all just right there laid out in a very easy to read roadmap. That is the benefit of nodes. You can send them to other artists, etc., and they can instantly access everything that you've done and edit it very easily. All right, so what do we want? Well, let's have Spark tell us what we want. We're gonna right click, and here are the options that you can insert. So let's build our lights real quick. So we're gonna add some lights into our scene. Actually, this directional light might work. Just so you know, you can add lights through this menu. There's 5 different options. I'm not an expert on Spark AR lights, but just from my general knowledge of lights and other 3D systems, ambient light is sort of like an overall, it affects everything. It's similar to an environment light. I'm not super sure of the difference between the two. I know in an environment light you can plug in a texture, so that's where you might plug in a HDRI image or something like that and receive the realistic lighting data from a photograph. We're not going to use either of those. A point light is like a light in a room, like an actual light bulb. It affects things that it's close to, and it has that fall off. A spotlight is like a spotlight, and like a in a studio, with it's very directional. A directional light, again, similar to a spotlight in that it's directional, except it is a world light. So it is like the sun, so you'll point it, if you're trying to build a sun, you'll probably use a directional light. It affects everything from a specific angle. So we're just going to actually use that directional light. I think we don't care about it that much. Okay, so I think what we want to do is insert a counter. It's basically a pulse that when it's triggered, it's like a switch, right? It steps up. So when we tap, we jump to count 1, which will then create an animation, and then I think we want to do an equals. All right, we'll do an equals exactly. We're going to say 1. Which sends a pulse to this animation, is going to transition, excuse me, transition. You have to drag, this gets me every time. You have to drag, you can't drag backwards, you have to drag linearly, at least for now. So we want to start this, we want this to be a transition in, I forget how to do this. Right, we want this to be a number, not a color. So we're going to transition this from 100 to, I'm not sure what happens if we hit 0, but let's try that, I suppose. And then that value is going to be plugged directly into our intensity. Phew! I don't know if this is going to work, but our light is on. I don't think it supports mouse tapping, does it? Simulate touch. Oh, that's cool. Blink. Something going on with our counter here. I want it to increase. There we go. It looks like it starts at 1. So just so you guys can see it again, I'm going to simulate the touch, and the light transitions out. The duration is 1 second. If I wanted it to be a really fast transition, I could set that. Let's go for 0.5 seconds right now. Cool. So I think what might be, yeah, so this ambient light, remember how I said it was global, it affects everything in the scene. That's what's keeping everything visible. We can adjust that slightly, make it a little bit more blue if we want. Seems very blue. So we'll go down here. Day for night usually is just a bunch of blue. Lucky number 13. I think this is looking About right. Simulate touch, bam, blue. Okay. Let's try it on me. Cool feature here, you can try it on different sims, or you can try it on your webcam. Hey, it's me, everyone. Hi. Good to see you. So if we're gonna simulate a touch here. Okay, so what can we do to make this a little bit cooler? I think I know. I don't want to mess this up. I think it would be cool if we could add a flickering effect though. So we're just gonna copy all of this, make this 2, make this 1, and I want this should be 3, I think. There we go. Okay. Only problem is that sign did not work. Got to think about how to create a flicker effect in here. So what we're going to do is actually pull these up so I don't confuse myself. Reverse these. 2, this is 2. Do like a 3-second one. Oh, I see. Elastic in, out. I don't know what any of these are. That's the only problem. And then we'll just add this as like, make that like 15. And we want that to be like starting out. We'll have this at like 80. And we'll have this at like 75. So it doesn't look too crazy over. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Yeah, the directional light, I want blue. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. So there you have it, guys. This is our PG&E losing power filter. Thanks, PG&E. Let me push it to my phone and show you, just in case. I mean, it's going to be exactly the same, but just so you can see it. All right, so this is my setup, obviously. App, lights. It worked? Yeah, it worked. Sorry, couldn't see it that well, but it's there. Okay, and exporting, you'll click here to export. It's really straightforward. You just need to be under the size cap for Facebook and Instagram. You can have larger filters on Instagram for whatever reason, I don't know. And you hit export and it will go. Okay, so it'll bring it to your Spark AR hub to test, and we can get into that in another video. You would click open Spark AR hub, and then it's really straightforward. You select if you want to push it to Facebook or Instagram. You can only do one of the two for whatever reason. So you can't push the same effect to both Instagram and Facebook. I don't know how strict they are about that. You probably maybe could just change something minor and then push it to the other one. And then that goes through a submission and review process where I think they review it manually. I'm not really sure because it takes forever for them to review it. And then it's published, and it's cool. So yeah, I'll publish this Thanks PG&E filter. I don't know if they'll accept it or not. That'll be interesting to see. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video at all or have suggestions, comments for the future, feel free to leave a comment, like it if you enjoyed it. ring that bell for updates on when we're posting a new video. If you guys respond well to this, then we'll go through and do another more advanced build. I have a lot of ideas for face filters, that I'd love to try out. So you can show your support in that way, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.